Hi, I'm Apollo, the creator of MacroPollo. Two things before we start. First, nothing you're about to see is hard-coded. Every insight, every chart, every table is generated live by our AI model. Second, that AI model is running entirely locally on my MacBook right behind me. And that second point is the entire product. Inside every asset management firm, pasting confidential portfolio positions into ChatGPT or any other publicly available AI models is a compliance violation. Legal teams will shut this down. MacroPollo solves that by having every query, question, and analysis being done locally in its premise. Zero data leakage, and that's not just a feature, it's a guarantee. What you're looking at right now is a live macro newsfeed. But MacroPollo doesn't just display headlines. When a high-signal article hits the wire, our local AI reads it, extracts the macroeconomic impact, and writes the analysis directly into our private database. It is actively building a proprietary institutional brain in real time. This is the institutional memory, the core of MacroPollo. Every article isn't just saved. It is mathematically encoded by ChromaDB, a vector database that converts analysis into embeddings. Watch what happens when I search semiconductors. The system doesn't look for the exact word. It uses semantic search to surface conceptual matches. Export controls, fab distributions, US-China decoupling. It understands context a senior analyst would. It automatically categorizes every memory into a macro taxonomy. This is what makes every downstream analysis grounded. Not in a generic pre-trained model, but in your own firm's curated intelligence. Let's run a live analysis. US imposes sweeping tariffs on Chinese imports. When I send this, MacroPollo retrieves the most relevant historical precedents through MacroDB, then passes them as context to our local reasoning engine, Qwen 3.5 by Alibaba, that's running locally on my MacBook right behind me. No questions, no queries, leaves the network ever. The output maps the full consequence chain. It immediately identifies that while Nvidia's revenue guidance drops due to export controls, Chinese domestic proxy stocks will surge to fill the gap. This is not a hallucination. This is retrieval augmented reasoning built on real institutional memory. Analysts present charts, not walls of text. One tap, and the model renders a native 6-month impact projection. Red across the S&P 500, the Chinese yuan, and Nvidia. Gold is the only asset catching the safe haven bid. Now here's where most AI tools fail. They optimize for consensus. In finance, consensus is priced in. It doesn't protect you. Our Devil's Advocate tab forces the model into a contrarian mode. Instead of the expected narrative, it argues that tariffs will trigger capital flights into Chinese state-owned assets as Beijing monetizes its reserves, and that Western tech, including Nvidia, gets crushed in the crossfire. This is an automated chief risk officer embedded directly into the analyst workflow. The ripple effect tab maps the contingent timeline, from immediately repricing at T0 through secondary credit effects at T30 to structural realignment at T90. But all of this is abstract until it hits the actual book. The portfolio vulnerability scanner takes this exact macro shock and runs it against live holdings. That request goes to the local Qwen server. Nvidia, Apple, Treasuries, Gold never leaves the machine. The output is precise. Nvidia flags as primary risk due to direct hardware dependency on the exact supply chain being disrupted, and Apple flags as a secondary risk. Gold is identified as the correct hedge for this regime. And critically, it explains why Treasuries is not the hedge here. And rising inflation expectations pushes yields up and bond prices down. One recommendation: trim Nvidia and rotate into gold. Not a 5-page report, just one decision. With the analysis complete, one tap completes everything. The chain that chart the portfolio maps into an investment committee memo through the native shared sheet. A workflow that used to take a few hours now takes mere seconds. And for physical Bloomberg screens or prime brokerage reports, our built-in OCR camera captures the page, extracts the text, and writes it directly into our institutional memory, keeping even off-screen intelligence into our secure system. Most developers see the regulatory wall keeping public AI out of finance as a barrier. But I built MacroPollo to make it our greatest asset. With local inference in a private vector database, an analyst can stress test a billion-dollar position without ever compromising a single byte of client data. MacroPollo doesn't just read the market. It defends the portfolio, the firm, and the capital. Once again, I'm Apollo, the founder of MacroPollo. Thank you.